Welcome back to Switzer. Search engine optimization is a big consideration for any small business. The difference between just a couple of spots could be big time success or financial ruin. So to find out tips to get higher on Google, I'm joined by Jim Stewart, Managing Director at Stewart Media Biz. StewartMedia.biz.
.biz.
How are you, mate?
Very good, thanks, Peter.
Good to see you, mate. Look, imagine someone doesn't really get it. How do you get to the top of Google?
Well, for most businesses, most sites that we see, it's because their sites aren't built in a way that Google understands. And for most Australian sites that we see, it's just that the site is very noisy, if you like, to Google, meaning that it might load slow, it might be having a whole lot of duplicate pages, so Google doesn't know which one is the most important. And for some companies we speak to, they're trying to rank for certain keywords in Google, but they may not even have a page with those words on them. So Google needs to see those things that you want to rank for.
Jim, it's a tough game for you because Google is always changing the algorithm. Is that the correct?
That's the one. The
correct term. And they do that to make it fair for everybody, or what?
Well, no. In fairness to Google, what they're trying to do is create a better product.
Yeah.
Because if their products become unusable because everyone's gaming them and they're not getting great results, the user's going to stop using them and it's going to stop clicking on the ads on Google. So what Google's always trying to do is provide the most relevant result to a user. So they make about 60 changes a month. So to keep up with that as a business, all you really should be doing is making sure that you're providing good content on a regular basis and making sure that the health of your website is in good nick.
Right. Now, one thing that fascinates me is that really colourful websites look fantastic, but Google itself is white. Is minimalisation actually good?
Well, what Google found out in the early days was, and the reason that the Google is really, really basic, is that they found out that a half a second delay added about a 20% loss in conversions. So that means if your site's half a second or web page is half a second, you're going to lose 20% of the people. They're just going to hit the back button and go somewhere else. So that's why Google looks at things like speed on its own site, and it's one of the factors that it looks at on other businesses' websites. If it's faster, you're going to have a better chance of ranking.
Okay, the importance of content. You mentioned it there. So if you're, for example, a financial planning website, and you've got someone like me who owns a financial planning business, am I better off every time I'm writing an article all over the world mention financial planning more times, and that helps my name go higher up in Google?
Well, that used to be the case.
Yeah, you can see how far behind I am. Yes, that's
well, but that's why Google had to get more sophisticated and have because to read something like that, people are just going to hit the back button again because it's going to be impossible to read. So what Google looks at now is the volume of content, how much, the regularity of that content. And they're very good at looking at the relationship between words. So it might be financial, but it might be banks, it might be stocks, it might be shares. So they get to understand that that's what you do. And then also by the other sites around the net that link to your site, how they relate, the context in which they link to your site. Google takes all these things into account.
Okay. Imagine a small business person is watching you, they've invested some good money in websites, they're not getting great results. What do you think are probably the main things they should be ticking the box on to make sure that they're getting it right?
The first thing that every business owner should do is get their web developer or their webmaster to set up a thing called Google Webmaster Tools. A lot of people have heard of Google Analytics, which is the free program that allows you to see who's coming to your site and what they're looking at. But Google Webmaster Tools allows you to see everything that Google knows about your site, and it will tell you the problems that it has with your site. It will tell you what keywords it thinks you're most authoritative for. So you might be trying to rank for financial planner, but the most important words on your site from Google's perspective might be Peter Switzer. So you've got to change that balance somehow. So Google Webmaster Tools, it's a free service, and Google wants site owners to use it because, once again, they want to improve their product, they want more relevant content in the results.
In the really competitive services industry, are the big corporations actually nailing the top parts purely because they've got the financial muscle to have the experts continually researching on the cutting edge of Google, and the smaller businesses find it very hard to get the cut through?
It varies, but if you've got a big old brand that's been around for years, we work with a number of blue chips, and what we have found in the past is they've got some really old, big sites that are very cumbersome, very complex, and Google actually has trouble with those sites. And so it's sometimes very easy for a smaller player to get right up there. What Google's very good at doing is making sure that businesses now rank for their brand. But you know, you can go and have a look at, say, a search like credit cards, and you've got some banks, but you've got a lot of just online players with their sites up there that, you know, and some of the bigger banks just aren't there. So it depends on the site, but the problem with the older, bigger brands usually is the size of their site and the history of it.
Now, what about the other competing sites? You've got Yahoo and Bing. Is it Bing?
Bing.
Is that where does Bing come from?
Bing was the old MSN, it was the old 9MSN, and they branded it as Bing for some reason. I don't know the thoughts behind that, but if you listen to the people at Google, they'll tell you that Bing basically copies everything that Google does. Yahoo, well, they're undergoing a lot of change at the moment. Well,
they've got a great report, and the new CEO's come up with a good report.
She's an ex-Google person, so you know she's going to make some major changes. Because she was amazing at Google. So.
And the content at Yahoo is very good. Yeah,
that's right. And look, and Yahoo was always more about search. It started off as search, and then got more into content. Google pretty much stayed away from content and creating content. And I think that's one of the things they learned was that they had to be very niche, very specific, and just concentrate on search. Whereas Yahoo was trying to be a lot of things. So it's going to be interesting to see how Yahoo goes.
I'm a small business, Jim. What do I expect to pay for a really good business like yours? You know, because there are a lot of competitors out there. Some are bums and some are really good. What do you pay for a good operation?
You've got to look at it as a marketing campaign. You've got to look at it as an advertising campaign over a year. You can either go and buy ads on Google, but you can also spend money just on getting ranked in Google. Our average client would spend about $1,000 a month, something like that. But you've got to look at that. You've got to set some goals. You've got to say, well, we're getting ranked for these keywords. What sort of traffic is that delivering to my website, and how is that converting? You've got to put a price on a cost per lead. I mean, we did a campaign for a car dealership in Melbourne last year. They sold 6 cars in the space of 2 weeks for this particular campaign, and the cost per lead acquisition was $4.
Yeah, that's really cheap.
Yeah, so if you're selling cars, it's pretty good.
But I guess you also know whether you're doing well or not pretty quickly, don't you?
You know overnight sometimes. You know, we've got a big blue chip client here in Sydney, and we had the new site go live. We made a few changes, and all of a sudden their major keywords, they were in the top 10 overnight, and they hadn't been there for years. So, and other times it can take longer because it's purely of the competition, purely because of the history of the site. So.
Well, Jim, good luck, and it's always good having you on the program. And when we have some more questions around this, I'll get you back on the program.
Thanks, Peter.
Cheers, mate. Okay.